I hate to ask the question, what was it like when you were in jail? I mean, it must have been horrible, one, being in there, but two, knowing you were in there for something you didn't do. I mean, what was it like with the other women in there? How did you cope?
Daisy, to go back to that day, my daughter said to me, Mum, I'm going over to New Zealand with my boyfriend, and she said, I really don't want to go. I said, honey, there's no way in the wide world could they find me guilty with this. And I said, go for your holiday. So anyway, when the sentence came down, and I came back from lunch with friends and everyone like that, and the jury had come back, and when I found not guilty, I just melted. And then they handcuffed me and took me downstairs. And then I'm sort of still in shock with all this, Daisy. And then I had a strip search down there. Then they put me in a paddy wag, and I was in the watch house that night before they took me out the prison the next day. I just decided I wasn't going to eat. And there was an officer that came to me, and he said the next morning, he said, Pauline, here's something for you if you have something to eat. He said, I'm part Aboriginal. He said, and my mother's Aboriginal, he said, but we fully support you. And he said, never give up. And then be taken to the prison and to go through that, being photographed and everything like that. And then the prison, they actually put me into the hospital ward because I still wasn't eating, okay? And so anyway, and I saw my daughter on TV that night, and I just broke down. Saw her with an interview, the media spoke to her, and I was so proud of her, what she said. She was only 19 at the time. My son was actually, what I heard from the security people, that he actually drove out and he was actually sitting outside the prison in his car.
Oh, my goodness.
Because he saw that as the only way closest he could be to me. So anyway, he was told to move on, that he couldn't stay there. I had supporters and members of the party go and park outside the prison with their placards and support for me. The public support was coming at 90%. They thought it was just ridiculous that I should not have been put in prison. What happened was, Daisy, I was in the hospital ward for a couple of days. Finally, they said to me, if you don't start eating, you'll have to be put in a straitjacket into a cell with padded walls. And they said, so you make a decision what you're going to do. So then I decided. Then they put me into the main prison, first off in a cell, which they kept me there for another 48 hours. And then with the lights on all night. And I said, you're only stressing me out more with this. Why do you have to have the lights on me all night, these fluoro lights? The guards were really good. They did try to help. But anyway, Daisy, I sort of moved on from there, and I actually helped other female prisoners. One, she was constantly telling me about her case. I finally then, before I left, I got her legal representation. I wrote to the legal people and I said, you've got to give her... She was in there for murdering her partner. And,
wow.
So anyway, I got her decent legal representation. I actually helped her do her submission. And she ended up getting released. Again, after I got out, she came here for Christmas. I got out of prison. She got out of prison just a few matter of weeks after me. That was in November. She ended up spending Christmas here. She went home to a house that was actually ransacked and
oh my gosh,
and burnt down. So she spent Christmas here with me. I got her decent legal representation. She had a trial. She was found not guilty, and there was an investigation in how the police handled the case. Another Aboriginal woman having a 7th child in there. I wrote and got her housing commission when she got out of prison. So she was absolutely devastated when I got released. And I got letters from her. On show, she said, "You're my angel." She said, "I'm going to miss you so much." And so anyway, Gracie was she was another one, and so I was able to help some of the women in there, and I sort of got myself together, and I got them all over into the fitness program anyway. No one went. No, I had 13 turn up with me one day, and he nearly fell over. So I've pulled myself together, and I saw, and just this little bit, it's funny, I was sitting in my cell, because you have a cell by yourself, and I had this probably a politician walking through, and I just looked up and I shook my head. You've got no idea. And that's another experience in my life that I know what prison's about. And I've been there. And if we're going to turn it around, we really need to look at our prison system.
Oh my goodness, it's overwhelming what you went through. And I have to ask, how did it feel when you found out that on appeal it had been overturned? What was that moment like?
The third one, and because it was my last chance.
Yeah.
And it's like they wanted to release me, but they felt they couldn't. So it was on the third appeal.
Oh my gosh.
That finally it was overturned. And it was it was exciting. You know, prison's not that tough if you purposely go out there to do crime against society. And actually you have the best of food, accommodation, you have everything provided, you can have an education, you can have everything done for you. But the fact is that if you're in there and your freedom's taken away from you and you're totally innocent, it can be devastating because you've denied your rights and your family, control, when you go to bed, when you're allowed out. It's just, it's devastating for innocent people, and there are some innocent people in there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, juries get it wrong.
But we don't give them the legal ability to actually fight for themselves. That's why I actually had my solicitor, when he came to see me, to speak to some of those other women there and give them help and assistance, and because they should not have been in prison.
Well, that's very, very good of you to do that. And I mean, I suppose if you're in that situation as an innocent person in prison, you'd want to help as much as you can, if there are other innocent women in there.
I think that's my life in general, why I got into politics, is that people can't do a lot for themselves. So I try and go out and help people as much as I possibly can. And that's what a job as a politician is, to be the representative for the people, to try and do what you can. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. And so I don't look at it in such a negative way. It upsets me because when I'm asked about it, sort of I'm going through experiencing that all again. But at the end of the day, when I see what I've accomplished with it, my time in there, and I've made an impact on other people's lives, I think, well, I've done something for someone else.
And you really have. And it's cold comfort, but it's that, that's saying that everything happens for a reason.
Correct.
And if that hadn't happened to you, you wouldn't have learnt those lessons. You wouldn't have been able to help those people. You wouldn't have had that life experience, that
woman would still be in prison for murder.
Exactly.